We'll go ahead and get started since it is noon and we want to be mindful of everybody's time. I am Misty Harmon. I'm a family and consumer science educator in Perry County with OSU Extension. And I'm so happy to have you all here today, and I'll let my co-instructor introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Candace Hare, and I am the Family and Consumer Sciences educator located in Morrow County, which is in Mount Gilead. And we welcome everyone today joining us. So appreciative that you're here to join us for our third in a series. And Misty is sharing her screen, and she is going to start us off.
Yeah, and so if you've been able to join us for our last two webinars, you might remember that Pat and I kind of started out with an overview of heart disease. And then the last time Lisa and Emily reviewed the first kind of 7 steps that we came up with in this presentation, much of that having to do with nutrition. So today we're going to kind of wrap that up. And again, just to remind you all, we are an equal opportunity organization. We don't discriminate for any reason. So, we just remind everybody about that. And if there happen to be any names, brand names of anything mentioned in a presentation, that is not an endorsement by OSU or Extension. And if you need this presentation in alternate form, just reach out to one of us and we certainly would be happy to get that to you. So our goals for today is we're just going to quickly review the previous sessions, just a high level kind of here, if you remember, because some of you may not have been able to watch those. And then also we're going to look at some additional health habits. And again, Lisa and Emily reviewed those first 7. So we're going to look at a few more today. So as we get started, and if you can just put this in the chat, if any of you have made any changes since this webinar series started. If you are participating in our email challenge, if you've done anything since then, if you can just pop those in the chat. And as you all are typing those in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and just start reviewing some of the past sessions. And Candace or Lisa or Jenny, please feel free to interrupt me as people are putting those in there, because definitely want to acknowledge any changes that folks have made or are planning on making. So again, that first time we reviewed the heart disease. And if you all remember, heart disease is an umbrella term that encompasses a lot of conditions. When people say heart disease, oftentimes people think of coronary artery disease, and that is certainly one of the biggest and most significant of that umbrella term. And that is the one that, causes plaque to build up in your arteries. And oftentimes people may have a heart attack or have to have bypass surgery. But again, just kind of looking at some of those other types of heart diseases, high blood pressure, congestive heart failure, arrhythmia, all of those things we went over that first day. And then last time, if you remember, my computer sometimes lags just a little bit behind. Emily and Lisa reviewed those, adding another fruit and another vegetable, making your breakfast count. If you remember, by eating whole grains and starting it out, even adding some fruits and vegetables in the morning to your breakfast, eating those protein-rich legumes, including that fatty fish, because remember, fatty fish has those good omega-3s in it, or omega oils in it, as well as nuts and seeds, and then considering your drink. So before we get started, I'm just going to look at some of the things. Eating mostly vegetarian meals. We'll try No Meat Monday, purposefully eating more fruits and vegetables. Got your blood lab screenings done? Great. Absolutely, Susie. And we're going to kind of look over that today and review those things, why that's important to know. Drinking more water. You've added a fruit and vegetable to your diet. Husband and I have eaten at least one meal where there's no meat. I'm trying to move every hour. Those are all fantastic. Really working on portion control when eating out. The meatless meals. All right, thank you all so much. So I'm going to turn it over to Candace now, and she also has a little question here as soon as I get my computer. There we go.
All right, thank you for sharing. We also have another question for you just to input in the chat. It is, how stressed have you been the past week? And you can give us maybe a not at all, a little, a lot. I am barely holding it together. How stressed have you been this past week? And I would like to share, and I I shared with a few of my colleagues when we were getting on that, yes, I had a computer crash yesterday or Monday, and then internet issues. These things were not happening a whole lot, and then all of a sudden they happen in 1 week. So I would like to say that I'm a little stressed this week. However, I have fantastic colleagues who will help push me through, right?
Indeed.
Okay. And our responses are we've got the gamut here too. I'm trying to keep up. Missy, you keeping up, or Lisa? Or,
Yeah,
Yeah, it
there's a
looks
lot of the littles, but we kind of have the whole gamut here. So some on either end of the spectrum, but a lot in the middle.
okay. So we are definitely here to hold you up if you've had a lot this week as far as feeling a lot of stress. Okay, or barely holding it together. We are here with you. So talking about stress, we are moving into our eighth step then for steps to heart health. It's take a breath and reduce stress. Uh, we do know that when stress is constant in our lives, health problems follow. That immune system starts to tank on us. We otherwise call it suppression. And then we stop living in the moment. Sometimes we hold our breaths and we're just like counting the times to get through to the next thing we have to do. And we just have stopped living in the moment. So we want you to start considering doing a just breathe activity or meditation or mindfulness. Just being aware that stress when it's left unmanaged, it's going to contribute to many health problems. And those health problems we've already started discussing earlier, such as high blood pressure, heart disease, obesity, and diabetes. So I am going to share my screen unless Misty would like to, and we are going to look at a breathing activity. And are we looking at my breathing activity screen, or have I stopped?
yes, Candace, we see it.
Okay, you see it. Okay, excellent. So this is what we're going to do. We're gonna, this is your plan for health at Ohio State. We have our Just Breathe campaign. We're gonna sync our breath. So what I would like for you to do is focus on the diagram. And as it expands, we would like you to breathe in and then breathe out when it contracts. So let's take a few moments. Once again, syncing your breathing. And we will put this in the chat so that you can get an opportunity to do this on your own. Okay.
I'm getting back there, Candace, if you want to.
You're good. We're good. So moving on then from trying to breathe slowly, then we have here that we are focusing on hobbies. So studies show that spending time on hobbies results in less stress, may lower your blood pressure, improves mental health, and may even reduce depression. So I want you to take a moment to think about what you like to do. And of course, if we're doing something we enjoy, we have passion for, that helps us refocus what we're doing, we can just see that our blood pressure would go down, mental
Candace, do
health
you want
wise.
them to put some examples in there? Because
That would
they may learn from each other. So if
that
they
would
want to
be
type some of the
great.
things they enjoy in the chat.
Because also being aware that they don't have to be just athletic kinds of activities, which we often may think of because we know that exercise, and Misty always talks with us about exercise helps, but just knowing that and looking on the screen here, you can have indoor activities and hobbies, outdoor ones. You can do them with others, or you can do them in solitude. So just being aware that our hobbies are a fantastic way to help reduce stress. Some people are not into the breathing exercises, right? Some people are like, they're not into the mindfulness, and they'd have difficulty focus and until you practice that a lot. But just be aware that your hobbies are right up there with you to support you in decreasing your stress. So would you share what we have here?
Yeah, seeing some great things, learning to paint, walking, photography, gardening, floral arrangements, trying new recipes, walking while listening to books, painting, using their Cricut, hiking, making shirts. There's all kinds of stuff in there. So again, continue to share with each other because, we learn and we might get new ideas and you all might get new ideas from other people here. So this is fantastic. Quilting, I just saw, baking. So all kinds of things, Candace, coming through there. So
That,
fantastic.
yes, thank you for sharing. That is great because once again, sometimes people just can't get into meditation, or meditation is your thing, but otherwise other activities that just bring your focus away from what is going on and just becoming mindful of what's in front of you and what you're doing. We're going to then move on to more laughter. Laughter improves the flow of oxygen to the heart and to the brain. And who doesn't want that, right? Positive people have less heart attacks. Smiling, let's all give ourselves a smile here. Smiling reduces heart rate, blood pressure, even in stressful situations. I think Misty has a favorite person she likes to see smile, which makes her smile. Did you want to share something like that, Misty?
Oh, well, my kids, obviously, but also, if you think of Elf, I like smiling. Smiling is my favorite. So I always like to think about that, if you've seen the movie Elf. So yeah, that's one of my favorite quotes.
Yeah. So when we were chatting earlier, and we all just smile when we think of others smiling. So just think about how great it is, adding oxygen and to your heart and brain when you smile more. Smiling also is catching. When you see someone smile, you also smile. Well, let's talk about being positive. The power of positive thinking. Positive people are more resilient when facing stress. They are healthier and get less colds, and they live longer. I was going to say, raise your hand. Who wants to live longer? So being positive definitely helps with that. All right. Definitely. And then once again, just going back to that heart health, positive people have a less risk of cardiovascular disease. And if you're like me, where heart issues run in your family, it is so important to talk about that positive well-being and thinking positive. Also, research has found that positive people perform better in athletics, when it comes to salespeople and salesmen and their jobs. They just excel more. They connect more with others. And then positive people perform better when it comes to those decision-making skills. And so once again, who doesn't want to have those benefits from positive thinking? Okay, so we're moving into a good night's sleep. Woohoo! So also here, raise your hand if you love a good night's sleep. I'm sure Lisa and Jenny are definitely right there, and I know that Misty and me sleep. And as you get older, you start to treasure it more, value it more. A good night's sleep has so many benefits. It lowers blood pressure, cholesterol, and reduces stress. It is essential for heart health. And you think of it as that beauty sleep. It's going to help repair whatever damage may have been going on throughout the day with that stress coming at you. A good night's sleep. It's basically there to help you just recuperate, rejuvenate, get that body and that brain back in working motion, clears out the clutter, as you want to say, overnight when you're sleeping. People who don't get enough sleep are at higher risk of cardiovascular disease. And then we want to talk about that, quality of sleep is important to reduce risk of heart disease. How do you get quality sleep? Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about how to get quality sleep, but here we're focusing on, for adults, 7 to 8 hours. Get those 7 to 8 hours in. Try working towards that if it's not something you're easily done, because your brain and body needs that quality sleep. For young children, we're talking 11, 14 hours of sleep. And those of you who have young children, I'm sure you're grateful that when they are getting that sleep in and knowing it's good for their bodies. School-age children need 9 to 11, and our teenagers need 8 to 9 hours of sleep each night. And starting them young models good sleep. Those teenagers and those toddlers, their brains are just growing and growing. They're having those growth spurts, and that sleep helps their bodies to catch up with what's going on. Their brains and everything come together. So we cannot focus enough on getting those hours of sleep in. Screen time, screens, and getting a good night's sleep. Jenny, who's on with us, she is a big proponent of watch that screen time, especially, 30 minutes to an hour to 90 minutes before you go to bed. So I would like to ask everyone, maybe put in the chat box, let's see, those of you, do you hang out on your phone or look at a screen within 30 minutes of going to bed? So give us some feedback on that. It's a habit that people got into, and when you were trying to get out of that. So looking at that, we want to make sure that to improve our sleep, we're going to avoid screens before bed and in the bedroom. This includes TVs, tablets, phones, and our gaming systems.
There's
So,
no guilt in that, by the way.
Oh.
Somebody said guilty. We're not here to guilt you. We're just here to, tell you the benefits. And if you are somebody who has difficulty with sleep, this might be one way you could help improve that. So no need to feel bad.
Right, exactly. And as we'll talk in a little bit too, just making small changes has helpful, and what works for you works for you. And it just is always worth trying it out. But I have seen where people say, watch a little TV, or I do it. And we all, fall asleep in different ways. And it's just one way to be aware that screen time is not as beneficial sometimes as we think it could be. We also want to make sure that we, those warm rooms there, we want to turn down that temperature a little at night. Maybe use those ceiling fans to circulate that air, but warm rooms we want to avoid because, and we'll talk in the next one, we don't get as much slumber, quality sleep as we think we would if we're all warmed up.
Yeah, Candace, we have a programmable thermostat that drops our temperature right before, about a half an hour before we're going to bed. And then it kicks on at 6 o'clock in the morning because my daughter gets up at 6. Though since I've been working from home, I don't have to get up as early. But as soon as that my bedroom starts to warm up, I wake up and I cover the register right by my bed. So, I definitely can attest to that cool room really helps me. And as soon as that heat starts warming that room up, I wake up. I know it's getting close to time for me to get out of bed.
There you go. Yep. And also then in getting a good night's sleep is having a regular bedtime. Try to get up and go to bed close to the same time every day. And this includes weekends. Sometimes we want to sleep in longer, but there are some issues with that. Sometimes you realize when you finally are getting out of bed, your back aches because it's just not used to that, even if you have a good mattress. So even on the weekends, try to have that regular bedtime and then waking time. Sleep on a comfortable mattress. Always make sure your mattress is comfortable. That is one of those big things that studies are finding out more and more is you got to update that mattress, and then think about getting a new pillow, having a couple of good pillows for you. Because remember, you're spending 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 hours of sleep, depending on your age. So that's part of that quality of sleep. As mentioned, then turn down the temperature. We seem to, if we get too hot, we are kicking off those covers, then you wake up because you're too cold and they're in and out of sleep and you're not having a good quality slumber. And finally, we want to avoid alcohol and other stimulants close to bedtime. Reminding us that alcohol is a depressant, which interrupts our sleep. We may think it helps us fall asleep, but it is not good for getting us that deep sleep that we need. So staying away from stimulants as well before bedtime is another way to get a good night's sleep.
Oh, see there. Thanks, Candace. And the last step here is wrapping it up with self-care. And self-care is a big topic. And so there's several things that we can do that fall under that self-care umbrella. Again, regular medical visits. And I saw somebody who put in there that they had testing done in that. But it's really important that we maintain those regular medical checkups. Oftentimes, if things are caught early, we can avoid problems later on down the line. And by making sure that we're keeping up with our medical visits, we can do that. And again, working with, your doctor, depending on your age and your family history and all of those things will determine kind of what schedule they may want you to come in. Some of you may come in once a year. Some of you, it may be more frequently than that. But again, we do want to make sure even young people, because, oftentimes issues go through our 20s and 30s because we think, well, we're not sick, so why go to the doctor? But, some of those conditions that Pat and I talked about in that first webinar, you don't necessarily have symptoms. So the only way you're going to necessarily know that is if you get those things checked by your doctor or nurse practitioner or whatever that is. So make sure you keep that up and know your numbers. Somebody mentioned already they had their labs done. Again, if you don't know where those are, and we're talking your cholesterol, your blood pressure, your waist circumference, all of those things, all of those numbers that are really important so that we can tell that we're doing okay, right? Because if our blood sugar is starting to go up or something else is starting to kind of go, out of the normal range, then we know we need to make some changes. And there are some things we can do before we end up with complications later on. Schedule an appointment with a health coach, great. Getting your vaccinations, again, whatever that is, whatever's appropriate for you, working with your medical provider, again, based on your age, and beliefs and all of that kind of thing, and your risk for different conditions, because some of those things that we might get, like the flu, can impact our heart health, actually. And even less significant viruses can actually settle in your heart and impact the ability of the heart to function. It can cause your heart to enlarge and other things like that, certain viruses and bacteria. So by keeping up with those vaccinations, again, whatever's appropriate for you, you want to make sure you're doing that. My daughter went for her well checkup a couple of weeks ago, and she's 17, so she had to get the meningococcal virus, and then they have a new one, so they gave her that one too. So again, depending on what's appropriate for you, you do want to make sure you stay up to date with those. And don't be afraid to seek professional help. And what I mean here, we've talked about medical visits, but Candace talked about stress. And certainly this last year has been stressful, regardless of where you are. The pandemic has certainly been stressful. And it's always okay to reach out to somebody. If you've tried some of those stress management techniques and you've done some of those things and you're still struggling, or you're just having issues, it's always okay. Your insurance may cover it. Employee assistance programs, or EAPs, sometimes include it as part of your benefits. So at OSU, we get 5 complimentary sessions a year. So that means you can talk to somebody and it doesn't cost you anything. It's already part of your benefits. So check into that at your own place of employment. And certainly there are other sliding fees, service providers and all of that. But mental health is incredibly important to our overall health. As Candace already told you, some of the impacts it can have on your cardiovascular health. So we want to make sure that we encourage people, if you need to don't be afraid to reach out for help. There are tons and tons of different kinds of counseling and kinds of treatment out there. And it doesn't mean you have to be in it forever. It may just be a couple sessions, and then that may be enough to kind of help you move through whatever is bothering you. So again, always, know that you can reach out, and we encourage that.
And I'd like to add too that telehealth, it's easier than ever to connect with a medical professional or a health professional. If you choose not to go face to face, there is that telehealth, and more people are feeling comfortable and confident with that, and that will continue. So it's easier than ever to seek that mental health professional.
Right, you can get it right from the comforts of your own home, and you don't have to go anywhere necessarily. We also want to control other health conditions because some of those may impact our heart health. So if we have diabetes or some of those other things, that will increase our risk for heart disease. So we want to make sure we're controlling as many of those things as we can. Candace mentioned the family history. You all who watched the first session know that I also have a family history. So I try to, do as much as I can with those other things so that I reduce my risk as much as I can. Of course, not smoking. And, if you do smoke, working on that, even cutting back, if you can't quit all the way, somebody who does smoke, reducing any amount they can reduce is going to be giving them health benefits. But ultimately, hopefully they would work on that, getting to that no smoking. And certainly if you don't smoke, don't start. You want to maintain a healthy weight. And I would say here, a healthy waist is even more important than your weight, because the weight that we carry around our waist is what will increase our risk for heart disease and diabetes and some of those other things. And weight doesn't always tell the entire story, though that's what your doctor's going to get, take every time when you go there. But really kind of minding your waist, that weight around the middle. When we have more weight in our abdomen, then our risk for heart disease and some of these other things goes up. So we really want to try to be conscientious of that, even more so than maybe what the scales say, though I know that's the easiest one and the one most people know. We also want to practice good hygiene. And this, I mean, beyond hand washing. Hand washing is very important, especially right now. It's important all the time. But I'm talking about brushing your teeth. I'm talking about, maintaining your overall hygiene in general, because again, bacteria as well as viruses can get into your heart, and especially through your gums. So you want to make sure that you're taking good care of your oral health. So seeing your dentist, or whatever that is. And again, just making sure that we're practicing good hygiene so that we help reduce the likelihood that something will get into our bodies. And like Candace said, of course, I always talk about exercise and physical activity. We want to make sure that we're physically active. And again, the gold standard is that 150 to 300 minutes over a course of a week, but just by moving more, you're going to get benefits. So, the studies are pretty clear. The longer we sit, the worse it is for us. And so get up in between. That prolonged sitting, when we sit for long periods of time, our body starts to release chemicals that tell it to store fat, and to store fat around our middle particularly. So even just interrupting our sitting, every 15 minutes, get up and walk around the dining table or up and down the stairs a couple times. Every time there's a commercial on, something like that, just to remind us just to get up and move around. It doesn't have to be like a prolonged period of time, but just move more, and you will get benefits. And then we want to count our blessings. Candace talked about positivity, and gratitude certainly can help us have that more positive attitude, focusing on the things that we are thankful for, the things that we have, as opposed to looking at what we don't or we wish we had. And again, the benefits are enormous for the folks who show gratitude, as well as who doesn't want to hear thank you or, great job. If somebody does something nice for you, make sure that you reach out to them. You can also, I like the idea of starting with an empty jar and every day putting something in there that you're thankful for, and then looking at it, on New Year's Eve or something, so you can look back and see all of these things that you were grateful for. And it can be something small. It doesn't have to be great big. So just start out by finding those little things. I'm thankful the sun is out today. So, and that we have a beautiful day here in Southeast Ohio. And then we want to take care of ourselves so we can take care of others. I cannot stress this enough. Self-care is critical to being able to be the best whatever, fill in the blank, best coworker, best parent, best spouse, you name it. If we continually give, and never put back into ourselves, we're going to not be as effective and not be as good as we could be. It's like on the airplane. What do they tell you when they're telling about the oxygen? Put it on yourself first, right? Because if you pass out or are unable, to function, how much good are you going to be to anybody else? It's the same thing with that self-care. You want to make sure that you're finding those things, and many of you put those hobbies in there. That's certainly part of that self-care, right? Or can be part of that. And relaxing, somebody put that in there. That can be as well. So we want to make sure that we're taking those, times and doing those things that fill us up and make us happy. And then Candace is going to take over.
Well, we're coming to our closing here today to end our 3-part series of Steps to a Healthier Heart series. And so I'm going to speak for, Jenny and Lisa and Misty and Pat, who was on before, and Emily and Laura, who helped us with this. We encourage you to try another deep breathing exercise today. So there is, we will put in the chat this deep breathing exercise, and when you're going to sync your breath with the tree. It's kind of cool. So we're going to encourage you just to go to that. Just remembering that trying another deep breathing exercise is to help you find calm in the storms of life, and to, help with those many stressors. So we encourage you to try that today. And we want to thank you. Thank you so much for joining us with this series. And if you were not able to see the full series, we will make sure that you get the links to do so. And if you're just joining us today, for the first time, you've heard so much already about heart health and steps to getting yourself and your heart healthier. Misty, please.
Yeah, and if you learned something new from today's session, if you want to share that with us, that'd be great. Maybe it was review, maybe you've heard it before, but you kind of forgot about it. So this kind of brought it back to the forefront. Please feel free to share that. And then while you're thinking about that, are there things that you plan on using? And maybe you're going to use some of that information. So again, feel free to share any of that in the chat as we kind of wrap this up. Missed the first 2 sessions, we'll make sure we get those to you, Tina, on the list, the follow-up here. These are some resources, and we will include these on that follow-up email as well. Some of you may already subscribe to our blog. We also have a Facebook page where we post daily. And then we also have text messages. Again, if you like information, delivered to you that you don't have to go searching for, you can sign up for that. And then that Just Breathe exercise that Candace went over is down there. So we'll make sure everybody gets that. Just our sources here, and then our team, which Candace already referenced. Again, we want to thank you for participating, and we want to share that these first 3 heart health webinars are just the start of a Wellness Wednesday initiative that Jenny, who is one of our moderators, has put together. And the next series, she's actually going to be doing a webinar in March about nutrition. So we'll make sure you get the link to that if you want to learn more about that. I know that session with Lisa and Emily was a really popular one. A lot of people had lots of questions. So if you'd like to know more, and somebody, Jenny, if you want to pop that in the chat, or Lisa, for them, they can register for that. But we will also be offering more wellness webinars on Wednesdays. So look for that. And if you have questions, you can always reach out to one of us or to whomever sends you your email messages. So if you're joining from another county and you have an educator there that's been working with you. And so that is all we have today. Candace and I will hang around. So if anybody has questions, Lisa and Jenny are also on. Otherwise, have a fantastic day, and hopefully you can get out and enjoy some of this beautiful weather if you're having it where you are. Oh yeah, and there's also an overcoming pandemic paralysis, and that was shared in the chat as well. Another series that's coming up, to help folks with some of the issues that they may be having with the whole pandemic going on.
Thank you for joining us, everyone.
And Denise, the recording will be shared. Anybody who is registered for this session will get the recording link once it's available. So definitely, we will make sure that you get that. And we'll have the links to the information that we presented here available to you as well. So yes. Thanks to all of you. It's all right, Denise. We understand. Things come up, and we just appreciate you, taking the time to be here as much as you could, and we'll make sure we get that to you, to everybody, I should say.
Yeah, I think we should probably just go ahead and put all 3 links in that last message.
Yeah, I can do
Because
that.
there probably are people who missed that very first one and then signed up later.
Mhm.
Yes, I think that would be great to just pull it all together, and then we can always resend to counties also at a later date in a nice social media message to, connect with them and review them or see them for the first time. We can stop. Have we stopped recording?